some closing thoughts because we've talked a lot about progressive and Democratic Party politics in this program. We have this split within the progressive movement or the liberal movement and within the Democratic Party. And roughly speaking, it's a split between a sort of centrist group that prides itself on self-described practicality and ability to get things done, and a more left-leaning group that has higher goals, higher ambitions, thinks we can do more, and thinks we can drive an agenda based on a stronger commitment to the principles of the Democratic Party as it was understood, for example, under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So roughly speaking, it's a split between, they are sometimes called the centrist Democrats, although the centrist Democrats hold views that are far to the right of the public on economic issues when it comes to Social Security expansion or the minimum wage, raising the minimum wage, or job creation, or any number of issues, but they call themselves a centrist. So you have the centrist Democrats on the one hand, and then you have the change-oriented left-leaning Democrats on the other hand. Now, FDR is generally considered by many people, and certainly by me, while he was very much a pragmatist, he was in many ways the symbol for the activist Democratic Party. He's the guy who created Social Security. He's the guy who created the WPA and put so many Americans back to work. He is the embodiment of many of the things that the Democratic Party has yet to achieve but aspires to achieve, that he laid out in his famous For Freedom speech. So here you have FDR on the one hand, and then you have the centrist Democrats of today on the other hand. So let's take a second and engage in a little thought experiment. What if Franklin Delano Roosevelt had been a so-called centrist Democrat rather than the historical figure we know him to be today? How would history have been different? Well, of course we can't know. It is a counterfactual. It is alternate history. But I will offer for you one interpretation of how that might have gone, and I think it's probably pretty reasonable to assume that it's an accurate one. So here we go. If Freudian slip there. If FDR had been a centrist Democrat, he would have believed, as centrist Democrats have often stated, that, quote unquote, Main Street and Wall Street rise and fall together, as opposed to what FDR said at one point, which is, they hate me and I welcome their hatred. Now, if he had been that kind of Democrat, he would not have formed the Securities and Exchange Commission. He would not have put Joe Kennedy in charge of it on the principle that, and forgive me, spirit of Joe Kennedy, you set a thief to catch a thief, because Joe Kennedy had been quite the rascal on Wall Street, but he did a fantastic job cleaning it up because he knew where to look. So FDR would not have done those things, which were extremely popular. We wouldn't have the Social Security system that we have today. Why wouldn't we have it? Because the centrist Democrats prefer a privatized solution. So FDR might have, instead of reining in the banks, instead of putting a watchdog on Wall Street and a bulldog like Joe Kennedy at that, he would have put Wall Street in charge of our retirement security, perhaps with some tax incentives for businesses to hopefully provide something for their employees. And there would have been no WPA. There would have been no putting America back to work the way we saw it. Again, there might have been genteel tax incentive for businesses. How would that have played out? Well, we would have still been in the Great Depression in 1936 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt came up for re-election. And he would have lost because the American majority would have been discouraged, dispirited, and feeling that there was nobody to vote for at the polling place. In other words, 1936 would have looked a lot like 2014 looked. So this is the challenge before us. Can we energize the Democratic Party as an agency for change or not? That will be the battle in the year to come at every level, electorally speaking, and it is a battle that the American people must win.